Bingo, 12 o'clock rock here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You know, we broadcast here on livestream.com and thinktechhawaii.com. We also post on youtube.com/user/ThinkTech Hawaii. And finally, we have radio. We now have radio. We take the radio stream of everything we do, and we put it on thinktechhawaii.com/radio.
Oh,
so when you're walking around, you know, hiking, running, whatnot, sleeping.
You can pot it.
Yeah, you can, right. You can pot it. Thank you very much. That's the voice of Cindy Adams. She's one of our guests today. And in effect, she's a co-host too. She's the CEO, President and CEO of Aloha United Way. Here on Aloha United we stand. And we have two of her staff members. We have Mel Colquitt, also with Aloha United Way, and Emily Mendez Bryant with Aloha United Way. Welcome to all of you to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. Always nice to do Aloha United We Stand. The title of this show today is The Changing Face of the Donor, or as I put it in my lingo, so who does care? We're going to examine that today.
Yes.
So first, let's talk about who you guys are exactly. Cindy, what does it mean to be CEO of Aloha United Way? This is not an easy question.
I have to think about that. What does it mean to be CEO of Aloha United Way? Well, for me personally, it's a tremendous responsibility in terms of leadership, and not just leadership of the organization itself, but leadership within the community, and the role that we play, both in terms of within the nonprofit community, as well as in the donor community, and in the social services community.
All right. And it's like an in and out kind of thing. You have to raise the money from the community, and then you have to determine policy. It's really important. And I really don't know of another organization, and I know something about you because we've been doing this for a year now.
Right.
You have to understand, take a close look at the whole community and figure out what the needs are. This is really important, and I don't know of any other organization, sorry, if there is one, tell me, that actually does that, determines the policy of giving.
So that's kind of an interesting way to, I think, kind of to phrase it. It's a couple of things, I think. One is, I agree with you. I think we are probably one of the only organizations that kind of has that responsibility, but also the way that we do it is, I think, relatively unique. And so while we have identified community impact areas that we focus on, which, by the way, are completely driven by community feedback and input based on surveys that we do. So this is not stuff that we're making up.
No, but that's very important.
Yes,
in our
it
time,
is. It's participation.
Have to be transparent, have to get feedback.
Yes.
It's the 21st century.
Yes, absolutely. So the community participates in helping us to determine the community impact areas that we focus on. Having said that, when donors either donate directly to a community impact area, or they donate to Aloha United Way and say, we have confidence that you're going to put this money in the right area, which is from a high level, we call that undesignated funding. When somebody does designated funding, they want to give $100 to Easter Seals, for example. That money goes directly to Easter Seals through us at 100%. But with this kind of undesignated pool of money, or money that is directed toward community impact areas, we actually employ a rigorous and very transparent process to move that money back out into the community. And it's done through volunteer councils that are focused on a specific community impact area. And it's done once every 3 years. We open up a window for proposals to be submitted by nonprofit agencies to receive funding. And
is this a year? Is this one of those years?
So this 2016 is the second year in a 3-year granting cycle, and it's our 4th cycle of doing community impact funding this way. So it's really exciting for us. I mean, the one of the very significant benefits to the agencies who receive money through our community impact funding cycle is that it's a 3-year commitment. So the vast majority of grants that are made available to nonprofits are an annual granting cycle. And one of the things that the agencies asked us was to consider a multi-year granting cycle. So we landed on 3 years, which we thought was a good number. So when we make a commitment and we award a grant, it is for a 3-year period, which gives, and the value of that is it gives the agency enough time to bring up a program if they're starting a program, to demonstrate the program's success and to continue to run it. If you only have 12 months to do that, it's a very limited window to demonstrate anything like that that could potentially be sustainable and scalable, right? So that's a really important part of what we do. And again, we do it through volunteer councils, and then we make those awards on a 3-year cycle.
One question comes out. I want to go to your staff, but one question comes out is if I make a designated gift, I say here's my money,
right?
Which could be a little bit or maybe a lot. Give it to Easter Seals, okay? And if the group now that sits and makes the policy and decides what are our community needs, they decide that we should give X percent, say 2% to Easter Seals. Does my special gift to Easter Seals come out of the 2%,
right,
or is that part treated separately?
Right. So good question. First of all, the designated dollars are unknown to the volunteer councils. So they have no insight into how much money was designated to any agency.
Good.
So it is not any sort of, it doesn't create any sort of bias in their decision.
Right.
The second point that I would clarify is the decision to fund in these 3-year granting cycles is not a percent kind of a decision. It's what is the proposal in front of us? What are they looking to achieve? How much is it going to cost for them to do that? How much of that can we fund? We very seldom, I hesitate to say never, we very seldom fund at 100% of the request, because really the sustainability of a program should not rest with a single donor, right? The diversification of funding stream is a very critical component of being a nonprofit, and so we very seldom fund at 100%. But the decisions are not to fund it 2% or 17%. It's how much do we think we can put towards this program, and it's very seldom 100%.
Okay, if you decide you're going to give Easter Seals $10,000, I'm making that up, and I made a special designation of $10,000, then assuming that the committee doesn't ever hear about my special designation, then
Right.
Easter Seals is a lucky boy because it gets $20,000,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay.
But Easter Seals is very likely responsible for executing on a large number of programs. One program they put in front of the Community Impact Committee for review for potential granting services, right? So donors who donate either online directly to Easter Seals, donate through us by designating to Easter Seals, the whole kind of available donations in the community are very critical. And a part of our role is not just to direct designated or undesignated funding, it's to help engender a spirit of philanthropy across the community. So it's helping to grow that and helping to reinforce that.
Yeah, and I think the really important thing to take away here is that when people give, that is the non-designated gifts, they're giving to your system.
Yes.
And they have confidence in your system. They
Right.
believe that you're making good policy, that you understand community needs, that you're helping in a larger sense, and they're trusting you
Right.
to allocate it in a way that's not only fair and transparent, but also that helps the community in general. It's the most bang for your buck kind of
Right,
thing.
absolutely. That's probably a really good way to kind of summarize that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, why don't you introduce your staff members? Start with Emily because
Okay.
she's a woman.
Okay. So Emily is our director of major. Okay, so I'm going to make this up now. It's essentially major gifts and planned giving is kind of the overall umbrella. She has very specific things that she focuses on. And so Emily is relatively new to the organization, meaning she's been with Aloha United Way for less than a year. We are delighted to have her as part of the team. She's already made a significant difference in the organization and with our donors. And I'll let her talk a little bit about that. And then do you want me to introduce Mel now or let Emily talk?
Emily, why don't you tell us where you went to school and why you wanted to be involved with Aloha United Way?
Seems like so long ago. So I went to the University of Washington, and I got my degree in psychology. And then
Are you psychoanalyzing me now?
I am, of course I am.
I always
Don't we
worry
all?
about these psychology majors.
It's the beauty of it. And then I received my MBA from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then why Aloha United Way when you could have worked for the Department of Education?
Well, I mean, I've gone through a whole transition of different organizations. I think this is a perfect opportunity for me. I was in wealth management back in Seattle, Washington. I moved on to work at the hospital state system and on the Big Island doing community relations. And then I moved over to Hawaii Pacific Health under the foundations of Hawaii Pacific Health with 4 hospitals. And then this was just a perfect kind of mesh of all the best things that I enjoyed, working with high-level donors and experiences, as well as giving back to the community. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I don't regret it one bit. It's been awesome. I mean, it's a great organization to work for.
Good hire, Cindy.
Yeah,
It's working out well.
It is.
Okay, Mel, your turn now. Why don't you introduce Mel?
So Mel Colquitt is our director for business teams, and that maybe in terms that people will recognize more readily is when they think of the workplace campaign, that what Mel manages is the team that focuses primarily on workplace campaigns. And Mel, on the other hand, different from Emily, has been with Aloha United Way for 15 years?
Nearly 15.
Nearly 15 years. So he has quite a bit of experience with us and a lot of knowledge, especially about our donors. Yeah.
Definitely.
So why did you join Aloha United Way? And what did you bring to them? What did they provide for you?
Well, it's a unique situation. It's a wonderful organization to work for. I've been in Hawaii for nearly 15 years. The only organization I've ever worked for while I've been here, and I come from the for-profit industry in arena as well. And so one thing I love about our organization is that we're very value and a value company within the community. We do great things, and that's the reason why I've always stayed with the company, because what we do, and we really make a difference in the community.
Yeah.
So that's my reason for being with the organization. And we make a difference, reaching out to the donors, reaching out to those individuals within the workplace, and seeing how that difference is.
So it's been a long haul. Is this a career for you?
Yes, it is. It is. I changed careers many years ago, and this is, the company I've worked for. Have had no reason to look elsewhere. Great leadership we have.
I don't know. Talking to you, Mel wants me to. I feel like I want to take out my checkbook.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, and I do have a pledge form in my bag.
He's always prepared.
We're going to take a break now so we can, do business. We'll be right back in 1 minute. You'll see.
Aloha, this is Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroots Institute, and I want to thank you for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We are delighted to be partners with ThinkTech because it gives us the opportunity to bring to you a show every week on Monday at 2:00 p.m. called Ehana Kako. Ehana Kako means let's work together, because we believe that Hawaii will be a better place when everybody works together. And in what way? Well, at the Grassroots Institute, we research 3 basic areas, and we invite guests to come on board from across the country, the state, and the nation to talk about a better economy, a better government, a better society. Now, aren't those things we all want? Indeed. If you'd like to have the latest research in terms of public policy, as well as ways in which we can build a better government, economy, and society, then tune in every Monday on ThinkTech Hawaii at 2:00 p.m. for our fascinating guests on Ehana Kako. Let's work together. I'm Kali'i Akina with the Grassroots Institute, and I'll see you then. Aloha.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We have a contingent from Aloha United Way today. Cindy Adams, Mel Colquitt, and Emily Mendez Bryant, all talking about the changing face of the donor and who does care out there in the community. Here on Aloha United we stand. So let me ask you first, Cindy, in your perception, I know this is a hard question, how is the community changing here? Like I was saying in the break, we know that the country's changing, and the presidential election, the remarks made, the issues raised, it tells us that it ain't like it was. But how about Hawaii as a sort of donor and social recipient? How is it changing?
Well, there are a lot of changes as it relates to donations, just in general, meaning across the nation. There are changes that are happening across the nation that are also happening in Hawaii. So, for example, I think in the last few years, maybe 3 years or so, we've seen a significant shift from donations to Health and Human Services to particularly large endowments and planned giving activity in the area of arts and culture and higher education. And I think if we assume that there is and this is not completely true, but if you assume that there's a defined pot of money that's available within the community or within the United States in terms of donations, then it's kind of like taking from one sector and moving it into another sector.
From the rich to the poor, if you will.
Well, even that, right. But even from social services to arts and culture or to higher education. But having said that, because that's not completely true, but having said that, I think the other shift that we're seeing, and this is now more about who the donors are, not the areas that they're giving to, we're seeing certainly a significant, there's a big profile difference between baby boomers and millennials, and the way that they like to give and how they get engaged in giving and what is meaningful to them are very, very completely different profiles. And what's interesting for us, especially as we look at workplace campaigns, which is where the vast majority of the donations that come into Aloha United Way, that's the vehicle, we are seeing in the workplaces, it's not unusual to see 3, 4, 5 generations in a workplace for lots of reasons. Economics, probably economics is probably the largest one, where people are retiring at much later ages because they have to work longer, kind of thing. Yes. So that's an interesting challenge for us from how do you engage the entire workforce? It used to just be maybe a couple of generations. Now, how do you engage an entire workforce of 5 generations with limited resources and continue to kind of engender this giving spirit in the workplace? It's a very significant challenge. And it's not just a challenge for Aloha United Way, it's a challenge for all of the nonprofit agencies that are out there.
How about Mel? Was it a challenge for Mel? How do you handle that?
Well, and that's a great question. And we just, handling that is identifying that and being able to work with those companies and organizations and ask them with their workplace campaigns. They have individuals within the organization, that demographic. We call them millennials, the young leaders. And for our staff, it's just connecting with them and asking them to, name a few of those individuals to help when they have their campaign committees or those coordinators to help be a part of that planning structure so they can reach out in planning the campaign efforts of the organization. So yes, it is something that we identify as the changing environment of the workplace, and that's really going to be the success of many companies, many organizations moving forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you have to be akamai about this. You have to know about these trends and changes in the workplace if you're going to do the best job you can in terms of understanding it, raising the money from it, talking to it, and hearing it. The other thing I was going to add, Cindy said that you made a reference, I'm not sure you were talking about Hawaii at this moment, but do we have a defined pool of money here? Or could I say that is expandable or contractible depending on the kind of effort you put in, the kind of sophistication you present and dealing with your pool of prospective donors? If you do a good job, can I say that your pool of money is going to increase? If you don't do such a good job, can I say your pool of money is going to decrease? Or are people sort of self-motivated about this and they're going to write a check however people approach them? What's your cut on that?
Is that a Mel question?
That's a Mel question.
Okay.
Sorry, Mel.
Take it away.
That's okay, yeah. And that's
Your turn
one of
is
the things.
coming soon.
It's okay.
And one of the things is really just being able to work with those companies. When you say define a pool of money, is to work with those companies, organizations, and help plan how the structure of their campaign is going to go. And we found out that in order to do that, to reach a number of donors, reach out to them and to increase the donor pool. So increasing the donor pool, that helps to increase the revenue stream, the money that comes in, that we can really put back to the community. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about increasing the revenue that goes back to our community.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And I'm gonna ask you in a little while exactly how you do that. How you spend your day, how you deal with existing organizations that you're approaching, and how you bring in new organizations that you have not yet dealt with.
Right.
Okay. So, but I want to ask the same question to Emily. Emily, how do you see your end of things working? And I guess I'm interested in trends.
Sure.
What sort of trends do you see in dealing with your large donor? Is that what you do? How's that going? Our community is in a sort of a mixed bag these days. Some people say it's doing fine, construction, whatnot. Other people say, no, it's not, because we have homeless and we have this huge disparity.
Right.
So how does that affect, the availability of large donations from large donors?
I think, especially in the area that I'm responsible for in the major gifts, there's a particular society called the Tokpo Society. These are our donors.
Spell that?
Not right now. You want me to? It's a spelling bee. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh, TOCQUEVILLE.
I'm glad I asked.
So the society comprises of, right now, donors, individuals that give at a $10,000 level or more on an annual basis. And we have seen a trend recently. It has grown. And actually, we've had a number of new donors, about 20, that joined our campaign in 2015. So we're really excited about that because we've seen a significant increase in just the recent year.
That's great.
Yeah, and we actually hit our $1 million
Just
goal.
for the large donors now.
Correct. Yeah, and so when you talk about the trends, I think that people continue to be committed to the community and they see the different areas that need assistance. And a majority of the group that are in this society actually have been what we call diamond donors, which is 25 years or more.
25 years?
Yes,
Wow.
I know. And
Wow,
so
that's really got legs. Yeah.
So the loyalty, not only to our organization, but just the commitment to make an impact in our community is there.
Yeah.
So, and we see business leaders, leading by example, as well as other people in their organization that step up. Recently, we've had the 20 new members, but they all come from a variety of different demographics. Younger, older, experience, it varies.
Individuals or organizations?
Individuals. And there's people that come from, workplace campaigns as well as outside of workplace campaigns. So it's really neat to see this. And what was great is that I just came from a United Way worldwide fundraising conference. And
You learn anything?
I did, too much. I think I shouldn't say that. You never learn too much.
Keep you up in the middle of the night with new ideas. Yeah.
But there are so many different areas that we can focus on. And one of the responsibilities I have is the Women United Affinity Group. And we're kind of still in this development stage, but we've had an annual fundraising event. And the one that's coming up is in May. And it's another group. There's 155 of them across the world, actually, globally. And so they focus on women initiatives. We've seen, like the Millennials, this is another area of leadership that we can foster and grow. And there's United Ways across the country that have done amazing things doing it.
Well, it's good for a career in a way of a successful executive, isn't it? That's good for a woman who's a successful executive to be able to say she's participating,
Right.
with Aloha United, and she's made a substantial contribution, or she's worked with other people in arranging contributions from a group and all that. But I just wonder, I wonder if they call you or you call them. In other words, when you get to your office in the morning, you find, 27 emails of people who say, I want to come down and give you a check.
I wish. That would be very awesome.
How does it work, Emily?
That doesn't happen. I should say often, but no, that's not typical. But what is great is, say for instance, the Tocqueville Society. We have this very dedicated team. It's a committee, and it comprises of 4 people right now. Terry, can I name them? Terry Fujii, she's our ADT chair. And she's with CW Associates, CPAs. We have Larry Rodriguez with Central Pacific
All
Bank.
volunteers.
All volunteers.
From the community. Yeah.
And what's great about them is that they're supportive, dedicated. They have their own network, and they really can help us get other people engaged and part of the whole, philanthropy effort, because they've been in it. Like, say for instance, Terry, she's also a diamond donor. So with that said, she can be a strong advocate for us that she's been giving for so long, not only in the workplace campaign, but just her time and volunteer work. So it's easier for her to advocate for us than,
Sure, like
stretch
leverage.
Exactly.
I think there are a lot of things in the Aloha United Way that do that. You want volunteers to help. You want to bring in people who are motivated to help you, who are community-minded.
Right.
And that's the way you get, the work done, because you have leverage that way. I mean, this has got to be a basic principle of the organization.
It is. It is. It's it's from my perspective, it's kind of smart leverage or scalability, and there's no way that we could do what we do if it wasn't for so many volunteers, so many people. Whether they're committed because they're on our board, or they're committed because they're on the Tocqueville Society committee, whatever it is, we have a significant reliance on volunteers and people who are committed to the well-being of our community, who help us do what we do.
Okay, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk to these guys and find out how they spend their day. We're going to find out their fundraising secrets. We're also going to find out, who out there, is the low-hanging fruit, and which one is the higher hanging fruit. Okay, we'll be right back. That's Cindy, Mel, and Emily.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hittel, and I host the show called Climate Change Beyond Outrage. We go beyond outrage to find solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. I hope you will join me here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We broadcast live from ThinkTechHawaii.com. Aloha and bye-bye.
Aloha, my name is Carl Campagna. I am the host of ThinkTech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. You can see our show every Wednesday at noon at 12 p.m. on ThinkTechHawaii.com, as well as visiting YouTube and finding the link for the show there. The show is also aired on OC16. We look forward to seeing you on the show. We have many wonderful guests, including Joan Husted, Corey Rosenlee, where we talk about the very important issues of education for our keiki. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We have Cindy Adams, the CEO of Aloha United Way, Mel Colquitt, also with Aloha United Way, and Emily Mendez Bryant, also with Aloha United Way, talking about raising money from groups and high net worth individuals or high contributor individuals. And we're trying to figure out who in the community, is the low hanging fruit on this, and who do we need to reach for in the way things work. Do you have any opening remarks on that, by the way? That's the ultimate question of the show. Who's easy, who's hard?
I'm not sure there are any easy or hard. And that's not a reflection of the desire of the donor to give. This is more about, you know, maintaining donor relationships is not an easy thing to do. It takes a commitment, it takes time. And it's, you know, it's really about understanding what the donor cares about. It's also understanding how the donor likes to give. And it's understanding, you know, how through those two pieces, how we continue to maintain a relationship and ties to that donor. Because much like volunteerism, so many other things, you know, this is another example of how important relationships are, right?
Right, that's right.
Everything is always about relationships,
Yes.
whether it's you're looking for a job, you know, virtually all of the jobs are relationship based,
Yes.
right? Not all of them, but most of them are. They're based on some sort of a referral. And it's because of risk mitigation. So
That's so true, Cindy, in every aspect of our lives.
It is.
I'm more absolute about it than you are. Every aspect of our lives.
okay, every aspect. So I don't think there's such a thing as a low-hanging fruit in terms of donors. I think we care about our donors. I think everybody cares about donors that they have, and I think it requires a significant amount of time and attention to relationship management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk to you, Mel. How do you spend your day getting the thing to work better? Establishing those relationships directly or through proxy volunteer people who help you out. So here, I give you this. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you're at the office of Aloha United Way. What happens?
Right. Well, one thing I can say is no day is typically the same. Okay. I can say that. And you know, being that we work with nearly 1,500 companies with their workplace campaign, and that's comprised of our donor base and our workplace campaign. So we're reaching out to those individuals and those companies to help them plan their campaign. We have a magnificent team of our campaign team managers who basically work with individuals in those organizations directly.
What does that mean, work with? What
Work
do they
with,
do?
when I say work with, we're on the phone with them, calling them. They are helping them plan their campaigns, whether it's when we say workplace campaign, they're reaching out to their employee base, planning events with them, special events, setting up the campaign as they're going to reach out with a pledge form, and I mentioned pledge form. That's the kind of the technical side of it. And so what we're doing is connecting them with the employee base. So our day is typically spent on calling those individuals, helping them set their goals, certain goals, how they want to reach the generate funds.
It's
back
the
to
technical, the logistics.
Right. Working
And
with
it's
all
also
the-
you're trying to motivate them.
all the logistics of a campaign structure itself. Now within that,
If they like you, they're going to do more, right?
yeah.
So
And
it goes back to the relationship thing.
And that's a great point because Cindy touched on that. And it's all about not only just building a relationship, but maintaining the relationship. In the structure of it, we have different segments of the community we reach to. We're reaching out to individuals, whether they're in the healthcare industry, those companies in the healthcare industries, our nonprofits, even our nonprofits support us. The government industries. We can go to utilities, the large utilities, and you mentioned that. So all those structures, companies within those structures, our team is basically working with those individuals.
What about military? Is that
We do have a separate entity within, and it's not Aloha United Way, it's called CFC, Combined
Federal Campaign.
Combined Federal
yeah.
Campaign, and they'll work with all those employees that are tied to that.
Yeah. So how, so you have existing organizations you've been
Right.
working with for decades.
Right.
How about a new one? I mean, do you ever get into your office and say,
Yeah.
I think I'll bring a new one in today? And how do you do that?
Yeah, and so that is what we call new business development. That's
Yeah.
one of our strategies in creating some opportunities. And so we'll connect with those individuals, those companies, and normally set up meetings with them to go and just tell how their organization can partner with Aloha United Way to just make our community better.
Show them the benefits.
Exactly. So that's one of the things we do as part of the structure throughout the day. Not just some existing companies and organizations that we work with, but a new business partnership.
And on balance, do you find them to be, interested and responsive when you go pitch a new organization?
Well, it's ebb and flow. There's some, if the success rate was what we wanted, then everyone we talk with, every new business we talk with, then they'll agree to participate and conduct a fundraising campaign.
That's great.
So and that's part of what I want to say, the sales aspect of it.
Yeah.
Trying to get them.
So what are the trends here? I mean, are you getting more contribution from the first generation, the second generation, the third, the fourth, the fifth? I mean, how is the kaleidoscope changing? We know everything changes, but how is this changing?
Right. So, in identifying the trends, and Cindy spoke and Emily spoke, we know that the workplace is changing. We know that from our established donors, we're trying to maintain a relationship so we can keep them at the level or keep them at the support they are. And just identifying the millennial, the newer donors, and because the way they want to participate is a lot different from the other entities.
They seem so interested. I can't speak for all of them. I don't have a sense for what percentage, but I sense that as a fair percentage of millennials, and that's hard to define anyway, are interested in the community. They want things to go well. They want to help people.
That's exactly right.
They're on the ground. There's a certain realism in the way they look at things, and they do care about the future. Are you finding the same thing?
That's exactly
Does
right.
that convert into cash?
Well, and that's what we wanted to do. We know that in my experience with millennials, they want to be involved. Involved with a lot of event planning, a lot of just helping out.
Yeah.
So, and we do have what we call in our organization the Society of Young Leaders group that is actually reaching out to them and working with them with regards to helping and assisting with the organization and with the community, uplifting the community.
Yeah, and Emily, someday you'll be a millennial too. You can quote me on this.
I'm kind of transition out of that.
How do you feel the dynamics are going? I mean, are you finding the retired generation giving more money, or is it the younger generation, or is it a combination? What do you sense in your travels?
I think it's definitely a combination. I think one of the things that we have to be mindful about is being more donor-centric and not really focusing on the organization, but what can we do to help the donor themselves fulfill what they want. So when you think about planned giving, which we also call legacy giving, is, what are they looking for? And what can we offer them as opportunities to help them get there? So same thing with millennials.
You have to tailor your comments.
Absolutely.
It's not just a routine.
Yeah,
No, it's you got to think about
specific, and it's definitely a long-term commitment depending on the different demographic. But I think if anything, with the millennials, technology too is a big aspect of everything.
Yeah.
And there might be what we call like a channel approach where we're doing emails, phone calls, personal visits. So we have to be understanding of how would that donor want to be approached. Is it an email? Some millennials or some, planned giving donors will like email, but you have to make sure that you understand them first and foremost.
That's really valuable, really important. Yeah, that really helps you do your thing. I understand we have a tweet here.
Oh.
Let's see, where is my tweet? Okay. Are Aloha United Way's donations affected by a rise in fundraising sites and apps? I hadn't been watching that. Any thoughts about millennials using GoFundMe, which I guess is a charitable app?
Yeah.
Are you guys involved in that, Emily?
So I'll answer that. I'll take that one.
Thank you.
Is that
I'll take that one.
Okay, Cindy.
So certainly the way you can donate landscape has changed dramatically, right? It used to be where you either had to write a check and hand it to somebody, or you had to go through a United Way organization or something like that. Now people can donate on their mobile phone. People can go to a website and give directly. There's a lot of crowdsourcing kind of fundraising going on for even Health and Human Services and specific individuals. So yes, the landscape has changed in terms of how you can give. I think, for us, it hasn't so much, for me, I'm not so concerned about how they donate as much as who is our donor? Who is our donor? And as Emily said, how do we reach our donor? And how is it they want to give back to the community, and how do we facilitate? What can we do to help facilitate that? Because for us, it's really all about how do we continue to support kind of the giving spirit and capacity of our community in Hawaii. We have the opportunity and are currently investigating the opportunity to use mobile technology to allow donations to take place. And there's some really cool capability that's out there. You can be sitting in a meeting at a conference, with 50,000 people and say, we want to hit $500,000 in the next 10 minutes and donate to this cause, right? And you can sit there and you can watch on the screen
That's
the
exciting.
Donations going up, right?
Yeah.
And then when you hit the target, everybody gets to celebrate. That is like immediate. It's kind of like a point of purchase sale, right?
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that I think are really exciting and interesting, particular to a younger giving audience.
Yeah.
And it's understanding where we interact with what kind of a donor and what's the best way to facilitate their giving. And when you have a multi-generational workplace where we're running a workplace campaign and where the company is running a workplace campaign, it's providing different levels and technology capabilities and venues to give to meet the needs of your diverse population.
Yeah, that is great. That's a great way to look at it. And it strikes me that although, you can have a sort of burst of activity with a sort of contest game kind of thing, at the end of the day, you want to have those donors who give for 25 to 30
Right.
years
That's right.
and
Exactly.
never stop. Those are your mainstay people.
Right.
That's what keeps
Yeah.
this going. That's the driver. Yeah.
And so when, you kind of, I wasn't evading your question about low-hanging fruit versus higher-hanging fruit. For us, I guess we could say that the lower-hanging fruit are those organizations and companies who have stuck with us year after year and run campaigns. But even in that audience, I cannot impress enough how important managing relationships and developing relationships, because nobody stays in one place much anymore. Mel is an exception. People are very,
That's a big compliment.
especially millennials
Right.
are very
Right.
mobile, right?
Yeah,
Nobody,
it's true.
millennials don't stay in one job for much more than
Right,
2 or
that's
3 years.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal for them to be that mobile. And so the really interesting intersection between giving and what we see at Aloha United Way and what employers are seeing in their workforce is one of the things that we know about millennials is they want to be engaged in their community. They want to give back. They care about the health and welfare of their community. And so if we can bring that piece into the workplace, and the workplace can create the opportunity for them to give or volunteer, it doesn't have to be financial, it could be time, that helps us, help the community, and it helps the employer in terms of employee morale, right? So that is a very significant intersection in the workplace that we are trying to facilitate.
Yeah. And those people, those young people, will someday be the people who've been giving for 25 years.
leaders.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's what we got to do.
That's what we have to
Okay, that's Cindy Adams, CEO, Mel Colquitt, also of Aloha United Way, and Emily Mendez Bryant of Aloha United Way, raising money for good purposes, good causes. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for having us today.
Aloha. Come back soon.